If you're brand new in using LightBurn laser cutting software, when you open it for the first time, it can be a little intimidating because there's tools, panels, settings, and buttons everywhere. And you may have no idea where to start. I know I didn't. But what if you could have someone walk you through it one step at a time? I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about ChatGPT. So we're going to try that today. I'm going to pretend that I'm completely new to LightBurn, ask ChatGPT to teach me a very basic project, and then follow its instructions inside LightBurn. Let's see how it does. Let ChatGPT know your experience level and your software version. So I'm going to start with a very simple prompt. I'm just going to drop in, I'm a complete beginner using LightBurn 2.1. Can you teach me how to create a simple project step by step? Please use the current LightBurn documentation when giving me instructions. One advantage of doing this is that ChatGPT, you can tell exactly how much experience you have, and if the explanation it comes back with is too advanced, you can ask it to simplify it. And if you still don't understand something, you can ask a follow-up question. Unlike using a pre-recorded tutorial, the lesson can change based on what you need help with. Now, if you happen to be using an older version of LightBurn, you can modify the prompt to read something like, I'm a complete beginner using LightBurn 1.7. Can you teach me how to create a simple project step by step? And please make the instructions appropriate for my version. Because ChatGPT knows that LightBurn not only has the most recent documentation live, it archives past versions so it can pull up whatever instructions you need. Now, some of the older versions of LightBurn, I don't think always had the version up in the top left. So if yours doesn't, just go up to Help and down to Quick Help and Notes. Click on the About tab, and then the version will be right on top, and then you'll know exactly what to ask ChatGPT for. All right, well, let's click Submit and see what we get back. Okay, well, here's what we got back, and it is quite a bit. Let's see how many steps we got. We have 8 steps, and I'm not here to put you folks to sleep. We're here to test to see if ChatGPT can help beginners learn LightBurn. Now, ChatGPT wasn't around when I started LightBurn. I would have welcomed any help at the time. So y'all bear with me. I'm going to pull this to another screen, get LightBurn open. We're going to go through these steps one at a time. Before we start, in case you can't read this tiny writing right here, it says absolutely. Since you're using LightBurn 2.1, I checked the current LightBurn 2.1 documentation before laying this out. We'll make a very simple project, a small wooden name tag with engraved text and a cut outline. This teaches the core LightBurn workflow without getting complicated. And you can see the reference to LightBurn right here. And if you needed to click and go to the documentation, you could do that from here. All right, let's jump into LightBurn and kick this off. So if you've been using LightBurn for a while, I want you to think back to being an absolute beginner and if this would have helped you at the time. You can let me know in the comments. I would appreciate it. So step 1 is to create text. And ChatGPT tells us to get LightBurn open, which we've done, and then go to the text tool in the left toolbar, click, and then click in the workspace, and then type something out. And it also tells us to go back and click the selector tool and then not worry about size or position, that we can do that later. So next, ChatGPT is telling us to put the text on an engraving layer. It's telling us to select it, go down to the color palette and select an engraving layer. And it's letting us know that the colors just mean that everything that color is on the same layer. It doesn't represent the color. Now, for beginners, that's really important. Then it tells us to go over to the Cuts and Layers tab, and at that point we can see the layer that we've created. And it suggests that since it's an engraving, to put it on fill. For step 3, ChatGPT is telling us to create the outside shape for our tag. It says to go over to the toolbar on the left, click square, and then drag a rectangle around our text, and then to put it on a different layer. For step 4, ChatGPT tells us to go into the Cuts and Layers window and make sure this is set to a line so it will cut. And then it goes into explaining some of the difference between fill and line. For step 5, ChatGPT is letting us know how to enter laser settings. You can just go to the layer, double click, and put your settings here. I won't give specific settings now, but you can ask ChatGPT questions. And if you're absolutely a beginner and need to know how to make tests to figure out what your settings need to be, ask me all the questions you like, and I will do my best to answer them. Just drop them down in the comments. For step 6, ChatGPT is letting us know how to preview the job. Now, of course, that's after you've got your settings in place and you feel everything is ready to go. You can select and then go up top, click preview, and you can even play it through if you like. Now for step 7, it's telling us how to position and frame the job in the laser bed, which I'm not going to do today. And then it tells you to run the project. Now, the one thing that I can see right off that it left out is how to center your text. Now, maybe it just assumed that version 2.1 would do a snap center, which it did, but it didn't talk about that. And I'm sure I can find something else if I look through. But overall, I think it done pretty good. So you can let me know in the comments what you think. So remember, you can ask ChatGPT all the questions you want. If you can't find a tool, ask it where it's at in LightBurn. If it gives you something that's not quite clear, ask it to explain in simpler terms. So overall, being familiar with LightBurn and with ChatGPT, I would say ChatGPT is very helpful, or can be, at teaching LightBurn, as well as other subjects. But you have to remember that it has limitations. It can make mistakes, and of course the differences in software versions, so you have to watch for that. And just don't blindly follow every instruction, especially if it's involving a safety issue. But for basic learning concepts, asking questions, getting explanations, it's very useful. So can ChatGPT help you learn LightBurn? I think it can. And for basic beginner tasks, it's very, very useful. I can still remember when I first started using LightBurn and lasers, how difficult good step-by-step content was to come by. And something like this would have been helpful. So if you think this kind of content is helpful to you, please let me know in the comments and I'll make more of it. So I know there's a lot of things you could be watching, so I really appreciate you watching this. And you folks take care. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you.